Okay, so you know how some of the biggest apps out there can handle just a crazy amount of data and they do it super fast? Well, a lot of the time, the secret sauce is something like Amazon's DynamoDB, and today we're going to demystify it. We're going to follow a developer's journey from being totally confused to having that aha moment, and you'll get to see exactly why this tool is such a game changer.
So let me start with a question that might kind of break your brain for a second. What if a database table had no set rows or columns? I know, it sounds like complete chaos, right? But believe it or not, that one wild idea is the key to unlocking the power of databases like DynamoDB. So yeah, let's figure out how that's even possible.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with that initial moment of confusion, then learn the new language of DynamoDB. After that, we'll peek under the hood at its engine, fire up the command line for some real power, and finally, we get to the big payoff.
Okay, first up, a database without rules. This is all about a student's very first and kind of confusing encounter with NoSQL.
And this quote right here, this is where our story begins. You can almost hear the confusion, can't you? The concept of a table without rows and columns is hard to comprehend. I mean, no kidding. It's like being told to build a house without walls. It just completely flips the script on everything you thought you knew about how data is supposed to work.
So what exactly is Amazon DynamoDB? Well, the official definition is a fully managed NoSQL database service. Let's break that down into plain English. Fully managed basically means you don't have to worry about the servers and all that back-end headache. Amazon handles it for you. And seamless scalability, that just means it can grow from your tiny weekend project into a massive worldwide app without even breaking a sweat. It's pretty incredible.
All right, so we know what it is, but how do we talk to it? Let's move on to learning the new language. This is where we shift from traditional rows and columns to something called items and attributes.
And this is the big mental shift you gotta make. In traditional databases, everything is locked into these rigid tables with rows and columns. You decide the structure up front, and that's it. But with DynamoDB, it's way more fluid. We talk about items, which have attributes. You can think of an item as, say, a user profile. And the attributes are all the little details about that user, their name, their email, what games they like. It's just a much more flexible way to describe things.
And here's a perfect example. We've got an item called Nico, and that item has an attribute called projects completed with a value of 4. See, it's not a row, it's just a thing with details attached to it. This simple idea of items and attributes is the absolute foundation of how DynamoDB works. Okay, so we've got the basic building blocks down. But what actually makes this database go? Let's talk about powering the database engine. We need to understand something called read and write capacity units.
This concept is super cool. Think of read and write capacity units, or RCUs and WCUs, as little engines for your database. An RCU is an engine for reading data, and a WCU is an engine for writing data. The more units you assign, the more horsepower you have to get those jobs done every second. It's like having a throttle on your database performance that you can crank up or dial back whenever you want.
And here's the best part, especially if you're just starting out, the AWS free tier gives you 25 write capacity units and 25 read capacity units for free. That is plenty of power to get a real project off the ground and running without costing you a dime. That's huge.
So here's what our developer did, and it was pretty smart. They chose provisioned capacity and made sure auto-scaling was turned off. Why? To make absolutely sure they stayed within that free tier. It's a simple little trick to avoid any surprise bills at the end of the month.
All right, clicking around in the web console is fine when you're learning, but if you want to unlock some serious speed and efficiency, you need to use the command line. This is where things get really fun.
So what is the AWS CLI? It stands for Command Line Interface, and it's basically a tool that lets you talk to AWS services directly from your computer's terminal. Instead of clicking buttons on a website, you're typing commands. It's way faster and honestly, way more powerful. And check this out. This is one of those aha moments. With just a single command, one line of text, our developer created 4 brand new tables. Instantly. Imagine how long that would take clicking through menus. This is the kind of efficiency we're talking about.
But wait, it gets even better. Then, with another single command, they took data from files on their computer and loaded it into all those new tables, and the whole thing took just a few seconds. We're talking about bulk loading data without breaking a sweat. It's a total game changer.
Okay, we've seen the speed, which is awesome, but now it's time for the real flexibility payoff. This is that aha moment where the whole no rows, no columns thing finally clicks into place.
Because you see, the real benefit here isn't just about being fast, it's all about flexibility.
Just take a look at this one project item from the database. It has attributes for authors, for difficulty, for URL, a whole bunch of different pieces of information, all attached to this one single item. It's so much richer than a simple row in a spreadsheet.
And this is the real magic. Look closely. In the very same table, some items have attributes like difficulty, while others have attributes like video ID. They're different kinds of things, living together in the same table, and each one only has the attributes that make sense for it. You absolutely cannot do this in a traditional database. That is the power of flexibility.
So let's just recap the key benefits here. First, flexibility. Every single item can have its own unique structure. And second, speed. You can scale your engines, your capacity, up or down to meet any demand. It's the best of both worlds.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. How could a super flexible, schemaless database like this one completely change the way you build your next project? When you're not locked into rows and columns, what new possibilities open up?